All right, thank you, gentlemen. Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. My name is Michael Dowry, and I have the pleasure of serving as receiver for the city of Chester. I want to thank you for joining us here today to participate in a Municipal Financial Recovery Advisory Committee meeting. I had to take a deep breath to get all of that out. MFRAC for short. We are joined customarily, and it looks like we have a full team here on behalf of the Governor's Office and the Department of Community and Economic Development, Mr. Andrew Sheaf, Deputy Director, excuse me, and on behalf of Delaware County Council, Ms. Kelly Diaz, and on behalf of the City of Chester, Mayor Stephon Roots and Councilman Shaquan Davis. Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
And on behalf of the receivers team, as always, joined by Chief of Staff, soon to be receiver, Mr. Vijay Kapoor, and Executive Assistant, Mr. Cody Dale. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
All right, so we do have a presentation for the committee here today, so it won't take long before getting into that. Mr. Dale, did the committee receive any public comments since our last meeting?
No public comments have been received since the last meeting, so as always, would just like to encourage the public to reach out to us. The best way to send any comments for the committee is to our resource account email address, which is info@chesterreceivership.com. Again, that's info@chesterreceivership.com.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. And as always, our office stands open and ready to meet with residents, small groups, what have you, to discuss the particulars of receivership and this engagement. Continuing on, I think we should just jump right into the presentation because I can tailor my comments to the opening part. Vijay, Mr. Kapoor, would you mind sharing the screen?
I don't know. Let me go ahead and do that now. Okay, just give me 1 second, Mr. Receiver. Can everybody see?
Okay. Thank you. So it's been a month now since announcing my resignation and subsequent replacement by Mr. Kapoor. But in that presentation, in that MFRAC meeting, I discussed 4 key priorities that I'd like to address before leaving office. The first of filling vacancies in key city positions. It's my pleasure to announce that the Community and Economic Development Department Director, that position has been filled as of Monday of last week. Ms. Nona Watson comes to the city with tons of experience, but also a gentle touch, if you will. And I think she'll be great in helping to bring that department along. It's a heavy undertaking, coordinating zoning and planning and codes, also known as licensing and inspections, the City Redevelopment Authority, the City Economic Development Authority. There are key functions there that really need to work in concert. I think the city is really experiencing that right now and dealing with the housing situation at the Banneker homes. So I was happy to see Ms. Watson come on board. My focus now shifts to the Emergency Management Services Coordinator position. This is one that we've had out there for some time and have been unable to fill that. So we'll continue to meet here in the coming days to talk about how we can maybe retool and better market that position. As far as the city audits, this has been the area that's been the most challenging. The city is still currently working on the 2021 audit. As long as we're working on 21, effectively, the city is working on 6 years of financial statements, 6 years of financials at the same time. 21, 22, 23, 24 remain open as audits. Then you have the current year management of the 25 and the budget versus actual and trying to adhere as close as possible to the adopted budget. And then you also have the planning going into 26. So we have to do better at closing these audits in a more timely manner. The 2021 audit, we did just receive an update yesterday from the auditor that it has been sent for peer review. One of the last stages in issuing a draft. So hopefully we'll have a draft here soon, let's say within the next 30 days. But this is a time or a goal that continues to slip. I don't think it's for a lack of effort. The city and the finance department in particular is working very hard to get this across the finish line. But this has been by far the most challenging area to deliver on. So we'll continue to keep the committee and the public informed as we work throughout this. But that is the most critical area of need right now for my focus. The third was addressing the EMS issue with Crozier Hospital bankruptcy pending and then now shut down, inevitably happening. The delivery of vital and necessary services, to which EMS is one of those services, was of utmost importance. Thankfully, the city was able to land a contract with VMSC. I want to thank Dr. Motley, Dr. Monica Taylor, and others who came together to really make that happen. But we are able to check that box and say that the EMS service is in place and secured with a contract for the city. Now, transport times and everything else still need to be improved, and hopefully some progress is still made on the hospital front, but to the transport side of it has been addressed. We want to spend the balance of today's presentation talking about the Stormwater Authority, though. Today, a significant step was taken to move these issues forward, and I'd like to, at this point, defer to Mr. Kapoor to take us through the rest of the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Receiver. And good afternoon to the members of the committee as well as the members of the public. Before we get into the stormwater matter, there was one other issue that we wanted to just let people know about because of obvious interest. The matter involving the city of Chester and the Chester Water Authority is going to be heard tomorrow in oral argument at the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in Harrisburg. It's going to be taking place in the Supreme Court courtroom in the main Capitol in Harrisburg. Don't worry if you can't make it over there. The arguments are going to be live streamed. So this is going to be audio only. There's no way of watching it live on video that we're aware of. Sometimes the Pennsylvania Cable Network records it and we'll play it at a later date. But the arguments will be live streamed at the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's YouTube page. And this is the place for it. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court does have its own YouTube page. These oral arguments are recorded, so you'll be able to hear them later if you're not able to hear them tomorrow, if your schedule doesn't permit. And you can find them at the same site. The court is hearing, I believe, 5 other cases tomorrow, and we have been notified that our case is going to be the last one to be heard. So it's definitely going to happen after lunch, from what we understand. We're suggesting that folks, maybe put this on a little bit afternoon. What we've also, again, I hesitate to put this time out just because I don't want people to miss it. But we have heard something maybe around 2:45 as well. But for those, again, those of you who are diehards that want to hear it, we suggest that you start to listen probably a little bit after noon. And the caption of the case will be on the YouTube site, so you'll at least know what matter is being argued. So, this is something that I think has been a long time coming. I think all of us who are involved, regardless of the side that we're on, are happy to see this moving forward. So again, that is tomorrow. So let's talk about what happened today. We took some very significant action today involving the Stormwater Authority of the City of Chester. As this committee knows, and as many of you who are following this in the public know, almost a year to the day, May 14th of 2024, we presented about unauthorized board member pay and the Stormwater Authority operating with more board members than permitted. And we also then made another presentation on May 28th. This has been an issue that has been with us for, again, over a year, and even prior to that. You all are also aware, the committee is also aware that at the March 25th MFRAC meeting, March 25th of this year, we made a presentation about an order that the receiver made just a couple days around that time, calling for SAC to cease unauthorized board member salaries. And the Stormwater Authority did not comply with that order. So we took action today. We filed a plan modification with the Commonwealth Court that, if approved, would stop SAC board member salaries and would also require SAC to operate with the 5 board members as set forth in its articles of incorporation. A plan modification is a very serious step. The last one that we filed, you all may remember, was back in November of 2022, where the primary focus was related to city council abilities to serve as department heads. We haven't filed one since that, but we felt that it was important to do so and to really, frankly, bring this issue to a head and to get it resolved. So the problems that our plan modification seeks to address are, again, it should not be anything new for this committee. But first, Stormwater Authority board members are receiving unauthorized compensation. Second issue is that 3 City of Chester elected officials are serving on the Stormwater Authority board with compensation, despite the city solicitor, so despite the city attorney advising them that their service on a paid authority board violates the city's home rule charter. Third problem is the Stormwater Authority Board, again, all of whom are receiving compensation, is operating with more board members than is authorized under the Stormwater Authority's Articles of Incorporation. An article of incorporation, the articles of incorporation are kind of similar to like a constitution. It's basically the foundational founding document of an authority, and there is a very specific process by which articles of incorporation have to follow in order to be filed and in order for them to be amended. That process was not, any process to amend it was not followed here. At the heart of what is really trying to be done here, and I'm sorry to say this, but this is the truth of the matter, is the receiver is attempting to simply have the Stormwater Authority Board follow the law, to follow both the city's home rule charter as well as to follow the Municipalities Authorities Act, or the MAA. There is a law that governs authorities, and there are processes by which authorities have to follow, and rules that they have to follow. If you read the plan modification that was filed, you will see that almost at every step, the Stormwater Authority of the City of Chester, and frankly, the prior City Council disregarded many of those very clear, very well thought out processes that are in the Municipalities Authorities Act, and that's why we find ourselves in this situation. So we're going to talk about 2 issues today. We're going to talk about the board member salaries, and we're also going to talk about the board composition issue. And this is not going to be a long presentation. Again, to the extent you have any interest in more detailed, we will make the filings available as soon as the court formally accepts them. And again, you can look back on some of our other presentations that we made, again, over a year ago and back in March. So let's talk about what the initiative is. So the initiatives in a plan modification are basically like the rules. This is kind of what we say is you've got to follow. We refer to those as initiatives. So initiative SAC 1 is ceasing salary payments to the Stormwater Authority board members. And the initiative is all salary payments by the Stormwater Authority of the City of Chester to its board members and board members who are also officers shall cease immediately. This initiative only applies to ceasing current and future salary payments. The receiver reserves the right to seek recoupment of unauthorized salary payments made to these individuals or unauthorized payments made to other individuals. So again, right now, the focus of this plan modification is focused on current and future salary payments of board members and ceasing those, stopping those. Slide 8 shows you what the board member salaries are back from 2017 to 2024. These are the respective board members. This is 2017 to 2024. The Stormwater Authority was technically incorporated in 2016. The Stormwater Authority board members weren't receiving salaries in 2016, but they actually weren't getting paychecks, but they were sort of made whole, if you will, in 2017. The Stormwater Authority was formally incorporated on, I believe, October 28th of 2016. And these are essentially the rates of pay. If you add all of these up through 2024, this is at least $816,000 that was paid out in what we believe are unauthorized salaries over the life of the Stormwater Authority. You'll see I don't have 2025 in here. I don't have full confirmation. Upon information and belief, we believe that in 2025, we're seeing the same board members receiving the same salaries. But for the $816,000 number that I quoted before, that is basically adding all of these amounts here. You'll see that over time, some of the salaries also increased. And really kind of happening around 2020, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Places where you see blanks are where the board member was frankly not a board member. So Susan Dennis, Elizabeth Williams were both appointed at the end of 2023 and took office, if you will, in 2024. Currently, upon information and belief, the Stormwater Authority Board is operating with 9 board members. Again, all of whom are being paid. So we've talked about this earlier, but I think it bears repeating. The rationale for why we believe the board member salaries, why board members should not be receiving salaries, is that Section 5610D of the Municipal Authorities Act, so the law that we talked about before, provides that board members shall receive such salaries as may be determined by the governing body of the municipality. In this case, the governing body of the municipality is Chester City Council. However, Chester City Council has never acted to authorize salaries for board members. It's very simple. We had the city solicitor and the city solicitor's office look back at all city council minutes going back to 2016. There were no minutes, no resolutions that authorized Stormwater Authority board member compensation. Through the bankruptcy process, we asked the Stormwater Authority if they had any information or any minutes, any resolutions that the city council may have passed that authorized board member salaries, and they did not. So very simply, there is no legal authority for the Stormwater Authority to be paying salaries to its board members. With respect to officers, we also could not find any Stormwater Authority resolutions setting SAC officer salaries. We also believe, and we can talk about it a little bit later, that even if the Stormwater Authority had the ability to provide for officer salaries or had the legal authority to do that, that those salaries should cease as well, given both the Stormwater Authority's financial condition and the city's financial condition. As many of you may remember, back in October of 2023, that we brought to light in early 2024, the Stormwater Authority actually had to take loans from its then executive manager, Dr. Horace Strand, personal loans and loans from his church in order to make payroll. Just weeks before that, the Stormwater Authority had increased its rates by about 56%, a little bit over that, from about $10.25 per household per month to approximately $16 per month. That's a 56% increase. And so the result of that was that Chester residents and businesses were paying for the board salaries, literally paying for the board salaries. And again, given both the city's financial condition, which is in bankruptcy, the Stormwater Authority's financial condition, which was very, very poor in October of 2023, and to the extent it's any better is only due to the fact because of the rate increases. And given the financial condition of many of the residents in Chester, the receiver does not believe that it is in anyone's interest for either board members or board officers to be receiving salaries. On slide 10, we talk about elected officials. So as I mentioned earlier, there were 3 City of Chester elected officials, 2 council members and the city controller, who are serving on the Stormwater Authority Board and are being compensated. Section 11.2-203 of the Chester Home Rule Charter provides that no council member shall, during the terms of office of the council member, hold any other compensated position in the city of Chester government. This prohibition shall not preclude a non-paying position with any local, state, or federal board or authority. Reimbursement of expenses shall not be considered compensation. And then a different provision of the Home Rule Charter also applies the same provision to the elected city controller. So effectively, the Home Rule Charter prevents city elected officials from serving on paid authority boards. It is not just our position on this, it is also the city attorney's, the city solicitor's position on this. On February 15th of 2024, again, almost 15 months ago, the city solicitor, via email opinion, advised the city elected officials that their paid Stormwater Authority board positions and continued service as city council members violated the city's charter. It is black and white from the city attorney's perspective. Then what happened, as some of you may have remembered, later on that month, each of these elected officials tendered their resignations to SAC, but they remain on the Stormwater Authority board to this day while receiving salaries. We had been made aware at that time that they had resigned. We had been provided copies of their resignations, all of which we filed with the court, by the way. And then at a later date, we learned that they had actually not resigned, or they had resigned but remained on the board. Each one of these members did that, and again, we have those filed as exhibits with the court. So, regardless of whether or not you agree with the city solicitor's opinion or his interpretation of the home rule charter, what we also did in this plan modification is we placed the city attorney's prohibition, his interpretation of the home rule charter, in the city ethics policy. You all may remember back in November of 2022, as part of that plan modification, for all the stuff that was going on with the city, the receiver included a provision in that plan modification that required the implementation of an ethics policy. Since the state Supreme Court's confirmation of the receiver's amended recovery plan at the end of January of last year, the city council, as well as the receiver, were working towards an ethics policy. The place where we got hung up, frankly, was this issue right here, was whether city council members, city elected officials could also serve on paid boards. We are looking to end that argument here by specifically requiring that in the ethics provision, in the ethics policy, that it include a provision that no city of Chester elected official may serve on a local, state, or federal board or authority in a paid capacity during the terms of office of the elected official. Reimbursement of expenses shall not be considered serving in a paid capacity. Now, while I think this is probably self-evident in terms of like why it's a bad idea to have elected officials serving as paid board members, especially to boards to which they have the power of appointment. What some of the rationale simply is the city council and the city controller, who should be overseeing city authorities, really have no incentive to do so in situations where they themselves are on the board, and especially where they are being paid of the board of the same authorities. So here we've got a situation where the city solicitor, the city attorney, explicitly informed the elected officials that they are violating the home rule charter, and the situation has been that a majority of council has not acted because it would result in those same members losing compensation. I want to be clear over here. Mayor Roots has attempted to have city council take action, but there's not been support from the other council members to do so. And so we're left in a situation right now where, again, we've got the city attorney saying that this is violating the home rule charter. We have a majority of council that's not willing to take action. And again, as part of what we're trying to do with this plan modification is place it in a recovery plan so that the receiver can issue an order for the Stormwater Authority to cease paying these members, or for these members to resign. It is frankly up to them as to what their choice is. But we find ourselves again in Chester in a situation where the law is not being followed, and where action is not being taken in order to enforce the law. And so again, that is another reason of why this is included in the plan modification. So that's the issues with respect to the salaries. Let's talk about the board composition issues. The initiative in the plan modification, again, is very simple. The number of members on the board of the Stormwater Authority of the City of Chester shall be limited to 5, as specifically provided in the Stormwater Authority's Articles of Incorporation. The problem we're having here is the Stormwater Authority is violating its Articles of Incorporation regarding the number of board members. The Articles of Incorporation enumerated 5 board members, and the Stormwater Authority is currently operating with 9 board members. And again, all of those individuals are being paid. You all remember, I think this slide from at least 4 presentations that I've made prior to this. The Articles of Incorporation are filed with the Department of State. They are authorized by the governing body, which is Chester City Council, after they pass a resolution evidencing the intent in order to create an authority. And again, we've got the enumerating 5 board members. There's no reference to additional board members. And by the way, there's also nothing in the Articles of Incorporation that set forth any board salaries. That's another place where you often see salary authorization is within the Articles of Incorporation. Don't see that here. So in terms of the facts here, at the time of its incorporation, when it was incorporated, the Stormwater Authority Board operated with 5 board members. On February 12th of 2022, just a few months before the city entered receivership, but certainly at the time that the council at the time knew that they were in some grave financial condition, the then city council added 2 additional Stormwater Authority board members, which brought the total to 7. That was Fred Green, and that was Joy Taylor, who was added in February 12th of 2020. On December 13th of 2023, so this is at the lame duck city council's last meeting. This is where the then mayor and 2 council members had lost re-election. This was the last meeting where they had a majority. City council added 2 more members, including an individual who had just lost city council re-election. That was Elizabeth Williams, who lost, and Susan Dennis, which brought the total to 9. Again, all of these board members received a salary. And what is also somewhat galling about this situation is that for those of you who don't know, the Stormwater Authority is not a particularly large operation. Other than the board members, it only has 14 non-board member employees. So why the city council at the time thought it was appropriate to increase it to 7 or certainly to 9, we're almost in a situation where we have, again, almost as many board members as we do non-board members, all of whom are getting paid, by the way. Also importantly, at no point did Chester City Council amend the Stormwater Authority's Articles of Incorporation as is required by the Municipalities Authorities Act in order to add more board members. That's where you add more board members. There is a process under the Municipal Authorities Act by which the Articles of Incorporation are to be amended. That was not followed over here. In fact, what happened was we saw the Stormwater Authority last year start to take action to try and amend the Articles of Incorporation to add additional board members. That was not done legally. It didn't follow the process. It has absolutely no legal significance whatsoever. We've included those actions as well in the court filing. But the bottom line is the Stormwater Authority is operating with 9 members when it should only be operating with 5 members. And this again is, I think we've seen this before. I've amended it a little bit to show again when the actions were taken. But Articles of Incorporation, you had 5 through February 11th of 2020. Throughout that entire time, you operated with 5 board members. There was nothing different that happened on February 12th. The Stormwater Authority did not increase their jurisdiction. Their problems did not, their jurisdiction didn't change at all. The only thing that changed was then Governor Wolf was very close to declaring a financial emergency, a fiscal emergency in Chester, and a receiver to be appointed. And then again, here on December 13th, there was nothing here that happened. Stormwater Authority didn't get bigger. There was nothing in terms of the day-to-day work they did. The only thing that was happening was the majority of the then elected officials were rolling off the board at that time, and 2 additional folks were added. Again, both of whom were getting paid. The other thing, again, that I'll note here, again, is we have 3 of these board members, elected officials, who in February of last year also had tendered their resignations, but also remain on the board. So in terms of what the next steps are here with respect to the plan modification, I think importantly and interestingly, we will likely find out who our new judge is. As we indicated earlier in previous presentations, Judge Ellen Seisler, who had previously been our judge, has retired from the bench and is no longer hearing our matter. And so this matter is going to have to go in front of a Commonwealth Court judge. Our plan modification is. So we at the appropriate time will be looking forward to who that new judge is. According to Act 47, the Commonwealth Court, so the Commonwealth Court judge will have the discretion to hold a hearing within 30 days of the filing, which is 30 days of today. And also according to Act 47, the Commonwealth Court, quote, shall confirm the modification within 60 days of receipt of the notification of the modification, unless it finds clear and convincing evidence that the recovery plan as modified is arbitrary, capricious, or wholly inadequate to alleviate the fiscal emergency. So this basically this is the standard of review that the court has. And again, this is what's, I think, different in this matter is, we've had the Pennsylvania Supreme Court weigh in on this. We have the opinion that it made, confirming the Commonwealth Court's decision in the last recovery plan, and hopefully a lot of the legal issues that were perhaps up in the air last time have been resolved. So we are looking forward to the court taking up this matter. We are also, frankly, looking forward to getting this matter behind us and getting some clarity in terms of the situation. And at this point, I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee has, and if there are any comments the committee has as well.
Yes, I have a question, or a question and a comment. Why wasn't this plan of adjustment filed in court last year in 2024? Why wasn't it filed in 2023, 2022? Why is this plan of adjustment just now being filed now when the city, the Stormwater Authority, the receivers team, we all have been wasting taxpayers' dollars by paying these board members for years now at this point? It's not like it's new news. They've been receiving salaries. So why is this plan just now being filed as as you mentioned, now coming at the new members of council who were just here and just sworn in, a lot of us last year, why are we made responsible for these actions that have been occurring for the last 4 or 5 years?
Sure. So a good question, Councilman. Let me answer that. So the first thing is, back in November of 2022, while we didn't have these particular initiatives in the plan modification, we did have initiatives related to the Stormwater Authority in the plan we filed in November of 2022. At a status conference, the then Judge Seisler, had indicated that she was not interested in taking those matters up because there were plenty of other matters that we were dealing with in the plan modification as it related to the city council powers. And so we agreed with the Stormwater Authority to withdraw those without prejudice of either side. At that point, we needed to wait until the Pennsylvania Supreme Court issued its decision. It issued its decision on January 29th of 2024. So we can fast forward to 2024. It would have made no sense prior to that to have submitted a plan modification because a lot of the questions about the receiver's powers were in front of the state Supreme Court. So we needed to have clarity on that decision until things happened. Very soon after that, though, we started the conversations about the Stormwater Authority board member compensation. In fact, the mayor was asking questions of the city solicitor. And the city solicitor's opinion to city council at the time was made on February 15th of 2024. So it was actually within almost 2 weeks of the state Supreme Court decision. At that point, council was actually notified and could have taken action themselves to enforce its oversight. It could have gone to common pleas court, which I think is what the mayor was suggesting. But there was not a majority of council who wanted to do that. In the interim, what we did was we tried to work with the Stormwater Authority, and in the filing, you'll see 3 pages of different actions that the receiver took, making the Stormwater Authority board members and their solicitor aware of the situation. It doesn't make a lot of sense for us to go in immediately to file a plan modification. Courts oftentimes want to see you try and reach an agreement. We attempted to do that. We had conversations about the ethics policy, and this issue was front and center. And there was not a majority of council who was willing to include this provision in the ethics plan. We then also became aware of the financial condition of the Stormwater Authority in early 2024 because the minutes from the October 2023 meeting weren't made available until early 2024. At that point, we took actions in bankruptcy court to seek information. You all may have remembered the different letters that the mayor and the receiver sent, where the Stormwater Authority Board said that we needed to file a right to know request in order to get information. We continued to work through there. We continued again to make folks aware of it. We took the depositions of the Stormwater Authority executive manager in October. We took the deposition of the Stormwater Authority board chair in October. We continued to work through this. We continued to provide every option to the Stormwater Authority board in order to take action. And then in March of this year, the receiver issued an order directing the Stormwater Authority board to cease these salaries. Stormwater Authority asked for more time. The receiver indicated that the Stormwater Authority could discuss the matter with the receiver's counsel. The Stormwater Authority did not do so. That was a couple of weeks ago. And so at this point, we've exhausted everything we possibly can. We think we've got a very good argument to the court that we have tried to resolve this before taking the action of filing a plan modification. And frankly, we saw that this wasn't going to happen. We took the action we took today.
Thank you. I understand where you're coming from wholeheartedly, and everything that you communicated, I am aware of. The problem that I'm having is, I guess, the miscommunication of who has the authority to do what here in these situations, and who can listen to what order and what not. Because if the Stormwater Authority were giving direct orders to comply with the law and they haven't, then we have a whole different problem, other than pointing the finger at the mayor and other city council members. People breaking the law is not the job of city council to address people breaking the law. That's the job of the courts. So I'm confused as to why the conversation always comes back to, I guess, pointing the finger at the mayor and, the newly elected or appointed city council members, if individuals who are not on city council are just blatantly breaking the law. That's the issue that I'm having with this conversation, is that bigger entities and people who have a higher authority don't seem to be taking the accountability that they need to take in regards to the situation with the Stormwater Authority.
Well, let me just be clear on this, and again, I will allow the committee to respond since I did this. So first, I'm not pointing the finger at the mayor. The mayor at all times has been pushing to address this. The issue here is there's various responsibilities that folks have, right? The Stormwater Authority does not have the authority to focus or to deal with the city's home rule charter. City council does, and you have. Frankly, if you have two council members and your controller who are on city council, right? Who are here, and this is not attempted to be an indictment of council members or others. I think the point is right now, there's various responsibilities that people have here, whether it's legal responsibilities or moral responsibilities. I think the issue really, the issue that we are really trying to highlight over here is, the need to follow the law, right? And the need for different groups to take actions when they need to take action. And frankly, it's fallen to the receiver to take a lot of action that we probably shouldn't have had to take. Maybe you hear it in the frustration of my voice. And I know Michael is a little bit more polite about it. But for this to have to fall to us to do, we'll do it, right? I mean, we'll take the action if we need to. But it seems in this situation or in others as well that it sometimes falls to the receiver to do so. But regardless of all that, I mean, I think the substance of the matter is the substance of the matter. It is going to be before a court. Part of the reason we wanted to get this in the recovery plan is there are clear abilities to enforce it in the recovery plan through receiver orders. I think we should just address it once and for all.
So many follow-ups I want to say to the last exchange. But Mr. Kapoor, just to keep the conversation going or the dialogue open, what, if anything, could you repeat, what could city council, what action could the mayor and council do to address the conflict with the charter and the city authority and it not following the original incorporation, going beyond 5 members and the conflict issue with serving in both capacities? What action, if any, could mayor and council take to address that?
So, I mean, there's a couple of things that could be done. One is you could pass an ethics policy that specifically codifies what the city solicitor says, right? His interpretation of the home rule charter, right? You could pass that, and then the council members who are serving there would be in violation of the ethics code, right? You could do that. The other thing that you can do, again, as the governing authority of the governing body of the authority is you can act to amend the articles of incorporation. You can specifically say, stormwater authority board members, you could amend the articles to say they shall not be paid. You can reaffirm the fact that there are only 5 board members. I mean, there's actions. There's other actions that perhaps council could take. The city solicitor may have other ideas. You could also go into the Court of Common Pleas and ask for a declaratory judgment, essentially saying, please interpret the law. We have a dispute over the law, and we need a court to clarify what that law is. So there are other actions that certainly could be taken.
So at the immediate level there, locally, there are steps that could be taken to address this. And the current administration it was pretty convincing, the wins in the last elections, if you will, and not to focus on the politics of it, but just to say that in the year and a half that this current administration has been in place, none of those actions have been formally taken. Is that accurate?
To my knowledge, that's accurate.
Thank you for clarifying. Are there any other comments from the committee?
Sure, I'd like to chime in a little bit. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to go back to an earlier slide. I think it was one of the first slides, and it just talked about some of the work the receiver, had and his team has done. It started with filling vacancies. That's really important here in the city of Chester. And it was my initiative for year 1. I called it just fixing City Hall, but the fix meant to move some of our current employees in positions where they could be more effective. And more importantly, after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the receiver with regard to council members being appointed to department heads, we had already budgeted in 2023 to hire those department heads. So we are, I guess, with our latest hire in community and economic development, we've got qualified people in just about every department in the city. It makes my job easier. It makes council's job easier to the extent that they involve themselves in the day-to-day operations here. I want to thank the receivers team for allowing us to borrow some of the people out of your own staff or out of the consultants that you guys are engaged with when we had holes, when we did hire in positions like procurement or project managers, or even when we needed that director of economic, community and economic development. So that's been super valuable. The audits was the other piece, was the other bullet I saw on there. I think when I came on board and on council, we were 2 to 3 years behind on our audits, and now we're 4 years behind. So on the surface, it seems like matters have gotten worse, but of course, all the details, haven't been disclosed. And one of the important details is that the auditing firm has been updated. We've changed auditing firms in the last couple of years. The old auditors that were on board for, I think, almost a decade were very good auditors, but as the issues mounted and as the years behind begun to grow, that small boutique audit firm was never going to have the ability to catch up. So our selection of a huge, big auditing firm who, in their engagement with the city, understood that they would have to handle, 1 or maybe 2 years of, audits per year, was super important. But that work is made difficult also by the fact that we've, had a couple CFOs as we continue to shape and build our workforce. We're certainly on the right track. 2021 is finishing, and in some cases, although Mr. Dowry, Receiver Dowry, had said we're working on 5 years at one time, 2021 all the way up to next year's budget. In a lot of cases, you can't do the next year until the year prior is totally complete. So the audit work is, although kind of getting long in the tooth, it's certainly getting done right. So, to the point that we do catch up, it's going to really be a testament to a lot of hard work on a lot of levels, much of it initiated by your team. And then we talked about the VMSC, our ambulance service. That's really critical. After we learned of the hospital closing, we really couldn't begin to do that work. And again, thank you to Delaware County Council, particularly President Monica Taylor, and our own relatively new hire, Dr. Kristen Motley, as our health commissioner. Those two ladies really work hard and continue to work hard to, help us here in the city. Getting this ambulance service was a major first step in providing care, out here on the streets. Of course, the drive to the nearest hospital was longer, but the fact that they've even initiated, helicopter, transport in cases which, will reduce the time to drive a ambulance during rush hour to Delaware or Philadelphia is super important. I just think overall, we just need a balance of opinion with regard to the receiver. Publicly, we see a lot of information that accuse the receiver's team of not doing enough. Well, I'll tell you in no uncertain terms, they can't do enough. To Mr. Kapoor's last point is, they are maybe working in areas that they weren't expected to when they came on board. But I thank you guys for, continuing to help move Chester in the direction that it needs to go. Even on this issue here with regard to stormwater and all the things that we as mayor and council could have done, I can say with the resources that we have amongst ourselves, we could not have provided the data that was provided today on our own. So it was, yourselves and your consultants, your staffs who have done the deep dive and bringing us the information and guiding us forward. I do get a little frustrated sometimes that, to the councilman's point, like, why wasn't, some of this done years ago? Well, as you explained, Mr. Kapoor, the stormwater topic was initially included in the Commonwealth Court, and the judge said, no, that's not something that should have been or that she was willing to handle at that time. There was already enough on the plate. More importantly, we just don't have the resources or the knowledge here to handle some of these things on our own. I think Mr. Dowry, Receiver Dowry, is very fond of saying you can't get ahead of the courts. And since so much of this is requiring litigation, and in a lot of regard, I support litigation because so many of these matters are personal, on top of business, on top of, government related. And sometimes all the facts just need to be presented in front of a judge who is serving as an impartial body, who just looks at the facts and makes the decisions. I really respect the work that you guys have done. You've been extremely effective. You've been a big help to the city in the time that you were here. On average, I guess your expenses for this whole receivership bankruptcy thing is maybe $2 million a year. In the scheme of things, I think it's a bargain for the results that we're getting and moving Chester forward. So as much as we want you gone, we appreciate you being here and, taking us through a lot of the issues, problems that we would have had difficulty identifying ourselves, and certainly getting the data and the instruction as to how to handle. So, you're doing a heavy lift here. I'm sure, in the case of Michael, who's been here from the beginning, you're doing a whole lot more than what you had planned to do, when you got here. You guys cannot change the form of government, and you work a very tight line in doing, what you do. But as mayor of the city and somebody who really cares about the future of the city, we want to get this stuff fixed fast. We want to get it fixed right. And, when all this is said and done, bankruptcy, receivership, authorities behaving as authorities should behave, this is all for the good. So is it worth $2 million a year? It absolutely is. And I thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's kind of an awkward position to be in. I think Mr. Sheaf, Director Sheaf, can attest to the fact that nobody wants to spend the money that's involved here. Nobody wants to be the bad guy. But it's not really fruitful for us to go back and say who should have done what, when. The fact is that there is a blatant conflict, there is double dipping, and that there are matters here that need to be addressed. And where do people stand moving forward, and what side of the aisle are you on moving forward? And let's keep it at this one issue in particular right now, because it's the focus of today's presentation. But Mr. Mayor, you also went back to the original slide of the 4 key points, and I just wanted to also point out Commissioner Shirley and a number of other city staff involved with the EMS resolution. So I don't want to slight anyone there. And then to the key hires, astutely pointing out the number of other moves that have been made. One director coming into community and economic development is not going to be the change in and by themselves. But several positions, zoning officer, planning, third parties, Bocelli, have come in to assist there, and in due time, that effort will start to run like the engine that it should, and yield the results that Chester needs. Ultimately, selfishly, our office's desire there is to help raise the city's tax base so that the city is self-sufficient and can emerge from bankruptcy with a plan, and in due time have enough development that the city is self-sufficient. So it's all works together, and we're just here to do our part, to play our role. And the last piece I'll just say is I wish we were here 2 or 3 years ago. But there is a bankruptcy that we're working through. There are Supreme Court rulings that take time that we have no control over, et cetera. And then there's the need to meet and discuss and try to handle things amicably up front before taking these unfortunate but necessary steps in the court of law. So here we are, and we'll continue to press forward. Are there any other comments from council? From the committee, excuse me.
I'm just gonna make one more comment. I'm gonna let everyone go. As this is probably the most I've spoken on infract since infract meetings have started, honestly. I'm not, as I've demonstrated since I've been on council, I'm not someone who takes sides. As a Chester resident, as a Chester native, someone who actually lives here and who actually cares about this community, who actually have to deal with the problems of this community day in and day out. I don't get to leave and come back and all that. That's not my position here. I'm actually a Chester resident, Chester High graduate. So the only thing I do is put my community first. And unfortunately, I have been in rooms since being on council where that divide has been present, unfortunately, and has been made political since, I guess, receivership started and since I've come aboard. literally going into banquets at different functions and having conversations with people and saying, well, how do you feel about the receiver? And then once you give a response, it's either they walk away from you or they continue the conversation. So that, you know, causing divide between people's and people picking sides is something that I don't do. And I choose to stay away from the conversations because I try to look at the positive and everything. And I can agree with the mayor's sentiments that, you know, we do appreciate the hard work that you and your team are and continue to do in our community. However, my goal is, and I think should be, is for the city of Chester to, one, we should have never needed you all to be here. And my goal is to get you all out of here as soon as possible. That's where I'm coming from as a Chester resident, as a Chester native. So it shouldn't have been hard for the HR department 10 years ago to hire qualified individuals. I wasn't in City Hall though that time, and I wasn't hiring anybody. I'm not hiring anyone now. But some things I don't feel as though the city of Chester needs individuals to come from near or far to assist us with everyday things. You know, they're not getting assistance in Haverford. They're not getting assistance in Springfield to handle minute, minuscule problems of hiring qualified or educated individuals. So why does the city of Chester need $2 million to do the same thing? It's very simple, but those things weren't getting done. And I'm happy they are getting done now, but they should be able to get done without people pointing fingers at individuals or choosing sides that we're talking about. And I felt as though earlier the language came across as, you know, you have to choose a side. And that's not the kind of person I am. I'm not going to choose a side unless it's right or wrong. Like I said, I'm agree with everybody obeying the law. If someone's breaking the law, they should be charged for breaking the law. That's the way the world works. I'm in agreement with that. However, I don't think we should paint the picture that we should point the finger at just one person or say it's those people's fault and just go about it that way. I think it's a collective effort. I think that we all need to work together to figure out what we can do so that it doesn't happen again. And really show like what we prioritize, which is getting Chester in a better position. And that's what I was trying to articulate earlier when I, you know, heard Mr. Kapoor's words. I was just trying to reiterate that at the end of the day, I thought we were all in the same team. I thought we were all in this together instead of, well, I'm on the receiver side or I'm on council side. No, I'm on the side of the city of Chester, and I'm responsible for 34 plus thousand residents. And that they're my concern. Not Mr. Dowry, not Mr. Kapoor, not anyone else. The residents of Chester are my concern. So that's what I was trying to articulate and reiterate on this conversation, not trying to be combative or choose sides as I've seen people do since I've been on city council. I'm not choosing anyone's side. Like I said, I'm on the side of the city of Chester. But that's it. Like I said, I'm not going to take up anyone else's time. We're on the same page, everyone, just to get the work done and to move Chester forward.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other comments from the committee? Well, Mr. Kapoor, thank you for another thorough presentation. As stated towards the end there, Commonwealth Court has 30 days to schedule a hearing if the court does in fact choose to do so. So I'd say mid-month in June, hopefully by the first MFRAC meeting in June, we're able to provide a significant update to where we are with this matter. As always, though, to the committee, to the mayor, council, we remain open to meet and discuss about these matters and not necessarily waiting on the court system to take the next step. So thank you for assembling here. Our next meeting will be May 27th at 1 p.m. Thank you. Have a good day.